Welcome. I'm thrilled that you're here. I'm excited about the topic that we have to focus on today. Today what we're going to focus on is how to find your ideal consulting niche. Now our agenda is as follows. I'll spend just a couple of minutes introducing myself so you know who I am and why it is I'm speaking on this topic. Then we'll review some reasons to be a consultant, especially nowadays. And then what I'd like to do is share with you the results of a survey that I conducted recently with a large number of independent consultants in which they shared with me their top pains and then also their interest. And then what we'll do is focus for the bulk of our time today on item number 4 here, how to find your ideal consulting sweet spot. And then we'll focus on trying to understand the consulting landscape so that you understand what kind of opportunities are out there. And then as part of our agenda today, and we will not be able to cover this today, this will be the second part of our webinar, but what we'll focus on in that second part of the webinar tomorrow is simple but powerful ways to conduct market research to help you find your niche. And I think you'll enjoy that a lot. Okay, also this next week, part of what we want to focus on is having a webinar series on how to significantly increase your marketing results by number 1, understanding the new marketing rules for optimizing your ability to acquire new clients and revenue. And then number 2, what we hope to do is provide you some deep insights on how you can create successful consulting marketing campaigns. Now my name is David Wilden, and I'm the founder and CEO of Breakthrough Practices. And one of our flagship services is purpose-based consulting. And what we do at purpose-based consulting is we provide best practice training, support, and software to help consultants, to help you develop and grow a thriving consulting business. So if you look at my background, most of my background is in the area of turnarounds and strategy. I've been an executive where I've led major business turnarounds and organizational turnarounds, and also I've spent many years as a consultant helping executives manage their turnarounds, helping executives to develop a strategy and to implement those strategies. I've also had the opportunity to work as a consulting executive. For instance, I worked at Capgemini and I managed the consultants that we had in the company for the state of Texas. And my responsibility was to make sure that the consultants had engagements that they could work on, to work with the consultants to make sure that they had the skills that they needed to be competitive in the marketplace, to help them to develop their career plan and to pursue that career plan. My job was to make sure that we had great client relations and to manage the consultants as well. Also, I've had the opportunity to manage a couple of corporate project management offices, and I'd have hundreds of projects going on at a given time, and a lot of those projects were product development oriented. Also, I've owned a couple of businesses. But more importantly, as an entrepreneur, I had an incredible opportunity to work as a direct report to this gentleman that you see over to the right. He is an entrepreneurial legend, especially in Utah and some of the surrounding states. He owned 200 different companies. He owned the Utah Jazz NBA basketball team, the Salt Lake City Bees minor league baseball team, an NHL team, a number of entertainment businesses, a large number of car dealerships, finance companies, properties, and so forth and so on. And what was exciting was being able to work with this man to get a much better idea of what it takes to start a business or to buy a business, turn it around so that those businesses could be successful in the marketplace. And then probably like a lot of you, I've spent a lot of time. I'm excited, I'm thrilled about the web and the new opportunities that it presents. And so I've been focused on the web as a technology from 2 different perspectives, actually 3 different perspectives. The first is, how do you generate business through the web? So what are the best practices? And I've taken a lot of great courses over the year on how to do that. The second is how to create a very successful website that gets hundreds of thousands or millions of views on a on a monthly basis or a yearly basis. And then the third focus area was how do you leverage web-based technologies to help improve your operations within an organization. And then finally, I've had a passion throughout my life in the area of career and life planning. My father did his doctorate dissertation on career and life planning, and I guess his experiences kind of got into my DNA, and as I focused on my master's thesis, I focused on career and life planning, developed a pamphlet, and have worked with a large number of people over the years in helping them to really find themselves, to find their noble passions, their natural talents, to find their purpose, and to really focus on a career that can create a significant meaning for them. So I believe that we need to focus our work on something that matters. If we think about it, most of us spend the prime of each day, we spend the prime of our life at work. And for most, during work, we don't focus on providing anything that really matters. And the truth of the matter is, our work, it does impact how we feel about ourselves. And to a degree, it impacts the kind of person that we become. So I have a lot of friends that have tried to suggest that you can separate work from your personal life, from other type of activities. And the truth is, you and I are a person. And the set of experiences that we have, it does impact who we are. And so the big question we need to ask ourselves is, what if you could focus on needs that really matter? What if you could make a significant difference? And what if you could meet your financial needs at the same time? So I believe that each one of us has been given a remarkable gift. I know this is true, that each one of us has been given a remarkable gift to do good in this world. And your gift is given to you so that it can be shared with other people. So let's talk about some of the reasons that if you're not a consultant, why you want to consider being a consultant. So if you think about it, what really is the essence of consulting? Well, consulting is the ultimate knowledge, is the ultimate skill on a topic. And if you think about it, people, they come to you for one of two reasons. Number one, they come to you because they have a problem and they need your help in being able to solve that problem. And so what are they asking for? They're asking for knowledge and they're asking for skill. And if you're the thought leader in a given area, all the more. And so that's one area where they're potentially looking for help. The other is they might have an aspiration. They might be wanting to create a new opportunity, and you can help them to make that dream, that aspiration, a reality. It's my belief, now there are some consultants that suggest to you that it's okay to have generalist skills because that means that there's a lot more opportunity. Now when I first started in the management consulting arena, that was very much the case. It was okay to be a generalist. If you were a great problem solver and a great planner and you knew something about operations and strategy and technology, you could typically do very well in any organizational setting. But nowadays, that's not enough. So big consulting firms, for instance, McKinsey used to spend a lot of its consulting mind power on helping clients from a strategy perspective. That type of work is beginning to decrease, and so what even with the big consulting firms, clients are looking for is people that can come in that have industry expertise, that have functional expertise, and can really help them improve their operations or develop a compelling strategy that they can bring to market very quickly. So I believe it's extremely important, especially nowadays, that you really focus on a few things and that you do them exceptionally well. Now, I love this quotation by Beethoven. He wrote, "Don't only practice your art, but force your way into its secrets. For it and knowledge can raise men to the divine." Other reasons to be a consultant: because you love helping others to succeed, because you really love becoming a thought leader in a given area so that you can really help people in a significant way. As a consultant, you have the opportunity typically to work with a wide range of either organizations and or people, and you get to be your own boss. And it's my belief, especially as we move into the future, because job security is not a reality anymore, because product development life cycles are being compressed because business life cycles are being compressed. I believe that real security comes by being a niche leader, by becoming a thought leader in a given area. And if you do that, and you let people know who you are and what you have to offer, you're going to be looking at both higher pay and real job security. Now, other reasons to think about if you're not a consultant getting into the consulting business is as follows. Elaine Podfield in Forbes, she wrote this: currently about 20 to 30% of the workforce in Fortune 100 companies is made up of contingent workers, and that percentage is expected to swell by 50% by 2020. And then Ray Williams in Psychology Today, he wrote, the rate of growth in contract employees will be 3 to 4 times the growth rate of full-time employees, and it will soon comprise at least 30% of the global workforce. And then Lance Buttonwood in The Economist, he wrote, for better or worse, this is the way the economy is headed. And then Tammy Erickson in Harvard Business Review, she summarized why it is organizations are moving progressively towards a contingent talent workforce. She says that it offers organizations 3 compelling benefits. The first is cost flexibility. So companies, they don't need to invest in full-time employees if they're able to focus on a contingent talent workforce. Number 2, speed and agility. Nowadays, getting the right talent, getting thought leadership to come in on a project basis and help the organization be successful in a given area very quickly, that's a big attraction to organizations. And then innovation, by bringing in thought leaders on a project basis. They're able to get new ideas, they're able to get new knowledge that can benefit the organizations substantially. Now, you might be sitting back and saying, well, David, you know, here's the challenge. I really am not a guru. I'm not a thought leader in any given area. And I would suggest, instead of waiting around to become a thought leader, that you get started. And until you become the expert that you desire, there are other options that can help you to grow and make a living at the same time. So number 1 is focus on the beginners. Now, you know, and I know, that as we lose our ability to be able to communicate in layman's terms with people as we become more of an expert. And so if you're just getting started, more than likely you understand the pains of you understand the pains associated with getting the knowledge you need in a given area, and you are better able to communicate with the beginners. The second thing that you can do is you can become an interviewer. So you can gather experts and you can interview them. The third thing that you can do is you can become a researcher. So you can research the niche market, you can gather data, and you can convert that data into a product. And then the fourth thing that you can do is you can become a bundler. So you can bundle together other products that you have resale rights to, and then you can begin to add your material into that mix. So let me switch gears and share with you, based on the recent survey that I mentioned that I had conducted with independent consultants, let me share with you the top pains and the interests that they relate to me. The first pain that they had was being able to find the right niche for themselves. Now, I find this interesting. So these are consultants, for the most part, that are out there and they're working with clients, but they're still sitting back and saying, boy, you know, I really want to find the ideal consulting niche for me. And then the second big concern that consultants have is, how do I go about finding and pitching to prospects? Now, there are other concerns as well, but that's why we're focusing our webinars for the next couple of weeks on these 2 topics. So today and tomorrow we're going to focus on finding your ideal consulting niche, or what I like to call sweet spot. And then what we'll do this next week is we'll have a webinar series on how to go about finding and pitching to prospects. So share the pains with you. The areas of knowledge that consultants want to gain expertise in is, number 1, how to find the ideal consulting niche, how to find the ideal products and services for me. Number 2, best ways to find and to pitch to prospects. Number 3, they want an overview of best practices and online marketing for consultants. Number 4, what are the most cost-effective marketing technology tools for consultants? Tools like a CRM, marketing automation, content distribution, and so on. And then the 5th item, and these are listed in rank order, is to be able to quickly and effectively develop new products and services. Number 6, help me to learn about trends that are redefining the consulting world. And number 7, help me to understand design and branding best practices. And then number 8, what are productivity tips that can really help me out as a consultant? So let's go ahead and jump in and focus on how to find your ideal consulting sweet spot. And what I'm going to do is share with you 3 important considerations that you ought to focus on. Number 1, what are your noble passions? Of all the passions that you have, which ones are your most noble? And then number 2, what are your unique natural talents? How do you focus on them so you can significantly increase your ability to both grow and to make a substantive difference in the lives of others or with an organization? And then number 3, where are the market opportunities? So let's go ahead and talk about, first of all, your noble passions. So, to try to illustrate what a noble passion is, I think it's helpful for us to look at the lives of others. And one of my heroes, probably like one of your heroes, is George Washington. And before I jump in and talk about George Washington, let me share with you that our noble passions, that those stem from our deepest values. And they are what really inspire us the most. So if you look at the life of George Washington, you learn that he did not want to command the Continental Army. That was suicide. To go against the strongest military force in the world. He did not want to become the President of the United States. He loved his property in Mount Vernon. He loved his home. And if you've been to Mount Vernon, you understand why. Especially during that time. Nothing was more important to men and women than having property and doing something value with that property. But the question we have to ask ourselves is, what if George Washington would have decided to just focus on wealth or power? As you recall, he had opportunities to be a king at one point of the United States. But what he chose to focus on instead was the cause of freedom. So he had different passions, but fortunately his love of God and his love of freedom and the country won out. And let me share with you, there's no question that the world needs you, and it needs your noble passions. So here's another angle. So noble passions are ones that are focused on others, on serving them, caring about them, building them up, honoring and empowering them. And noble passions are based on complete integrity. Now, selfish passions, on the other hand, are ones that focus on me at the expense of others. They're focused on tearing down others, not caring about them, controlling or manipulating them. They're dishonest. They're dishonorable. And they're focused on short-term pleasures at the expense of everything. So, what do noble passions do for you? Well, they help you to focus on others. They help you to really understand your purpose. They help you to develop the character traits that you really desire. And they help you to serve others. And because you're serving others, you're able to make an important difference. Now, it's important, our passions, our desires are everything. Our persistent desires, our passions, they ultimately determine who we become. So if you think about it, over to the right here, your desires or your passions, they impact your choices. And your choices, they impact the actions that you take. And so this cycle of desire and choices and actions repeated over and over again, they begin to constitute who you are. They constitute who you become. So what I'd like to ask you to do And I'll review the questions right now that I'm going to ask you to think about. And I'll also send this PowerPoint to you in a PDF file so that you really can sit back and answer these questions for yourself. Is number one, what noble passions touch your heart the most? Number two, what hurts your soul most? Number three, what completely captures your heart and your attention? And number four, what if you could dedicate your life to helping others and building others and make the living that you need to? If that was the case, what would you do? So let's go ahead now and focus on talents and strengths. Now, Peter Drucker, he shared something that was very enlightening. He said, most Americans, they do not know what their strengths are. When you ask them, they look at you with a blank stare, and they respond in terms of subject knowledge, which is the wrong answer. And in the book Strength Finder 2.0, and also Now Discover Your Strengths, they wrote, unfortunately, most of us have a little sense of our talents and strengths, much less the ability to build our life around them. And instead, we're guided by our parents, by our teachers, by our managers, and by psychology's fascination with pathology. We become experts in our weaknesses, and we spend our lives trying to repair these flaws, while our strengths lie dormant and neglected. By you and I taking the time to identify our natural talents, if we do that and we focus on them, then we have the ability to grow exponentially and thus increase our abilities to be able to help others. So, why are talents so important? Well, we each have been given talents that we need to discover and develop, and our greatest potential for growth is in the areas of our talent. And talents, they're enduring and they're unique. Each person, you have the potential to contribute something powerful, something unique and important. And when developed and used, our talents, they bring deep fulfillment and they bring joy. Now, what is a talent? Well, a talent is an innate ability and gift that you have been given that allows you to do something with little or no practice, little or no training, little to no experience. And usually talents, they come so easily to us that we don't recognize them in talents. We assume that everyone can do the same thing. Now, here's another definition. A talent is the result of naturally reoccurring patterns of thought, feeling, and behavior productively applied in an area. So the talent is the reoccurring pattern, the talent is the result of a naturally reoccurring patterns of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors productively applied in an area. So let me share. I have a friend, his name is Lynn Whipple, and he really is, he's a talent guru. He knows how to recruit best talent. He knows how to help people find their talent. He also has expertise in organizational behavior, and he shared with me, he says, David, a number of years ago, there were psychologists, and they conducted an experiment. And they were focused on talent and how to best help people to grow their talents. And part of what they did is they said, okay, let's run an experiment. And what we're going to do is we're going to get two groups of people. And in the first group, we're going to get people that type. They type 90 words per minute. And that's fast. 90 words per minute is impressive. And we're going to take them through this training program. And it's a one-week training program, and we're going to see what the average typing speed is after the program. And so they did that. And we'll come back to the results of that in just a moment. But in the second group, they identified people that typed incredibly fast, 225 words per minute. And they took them through this same training. And so the assumption was that this first group over here, if you put them through the training program, that they would see the greatest improvement in typing skills. So that was the assumption. So they took them through the training, and in my word, these folks, after the 1 week's worth of training, increased their typing speed by 50%. They were typing on average 135 words per minute. Now in this other group, they took them through the same training, and you would think 225 words per minute, that's at human capacity. How can you type any faster than that? The average typing speed for the second group was 2,000 words per minute. That was a 788% growth. Now, if you think about it, there are really three components that are involved in your capacity. The first has to do with your knowledge in a given area. The second is your experience. And the third, and most important, is talent. So, let's talk about the difference between talent and strengths. So a strength, really what it is it's a accumulation of talent plus knowledge times by experience. So talent plus knowledge times experience equals strength. So what I'd like to do is ask you to think about the following questions. Then I'm going to also jump in and point you to a number of survey tools, questionnaires that can help you. So here are the questions. What passions did you have as a youth? What natural talents did you have when you were young? What school topics, what activities, what work did you excel at most easily? And then today, what are your most noble passions that inspire you the most? What natural abilities do you have? What comes easy to you? And then deep down, what kind of person do you want to become? Now, I'm going to share with you some tools, many of which are free, that can help you. And these tools, it's important to share a caveat with these tools. These tools are nothing more than aids to help you explore your talents. Unfortunately, too many of these tools are used to stereotype ourselves or to stereotype others, and this is counterproductive. These tools are productive when we use them to refine our thinking, to refine our discovery process. Now, we need to remember that it's really up to you. Who you persistently desire and work towards becoming constitutes who you become. So here are the tools. And I've identified both free and paid tools. So the MYERS-BRIGGS tool, and we'll talk about what that is in just a moment. There's the HERMANN brain dominance tool, the HOLLAND tool. There are 360-degree input tools. And if you buy the book, Now Discover Your Strengths, there's a tool, a test that you can take to help you discover, based on their model, your strengths. And then at the more expensive end of things, there is a Talent Plus program where you actually sit down with psychologists, and based on profiles and a lot of questions, they will help you to find your strengths. Now, let's talk about the Myers-Briggs. So what is the Myers-Briggs? Now, I know a lot of you might be familiar with it. And Myers-Briggs, it's been around for a long time. It seems to be an anchor. People seem to come back to the tool. It seems to really resonate with so many people and be accurate in its predictive nature. So what is the Myers-Briggs indicator assessment? It's a questionnaire that measures preferences in how people perceive the world and how they make decisions. And as you can see, there are 16 different personality types over to the right. And so what I've provided here is a link for you to be able to take a free version of the assessment. And then people over the years have identified careers that seem to best match with these different personality types. And so what I provided is a link to some of the common careers based on the different personality types, the careers that align best. So the other tool that is highly regarded is the HERMANN Brain Dominance Instruments tool. And this tool, it's a system to measure and describe thinking preferences in people. And as you can see over to the right, there are four different colors, or four different thinking preferences. And if we look at these colors over to the left, we see the blue people. And the blue people are what oriented? They're fact oriented. They really want to understand. They're logical, they're analytical, research-based, fact-based, quantitative. And so those are the blue people. Now the truth is, you and I have more than one color, but what we're trying to identify is what is the top preference that we have, what is the second preference, what is the third preference, and so on. So the yellow people are the white people. They're future-oriented. They want to discover. They're conceptual, imaginative, holistic, intuitive, integrating, and synthesizing. Then you have your red people, and these are people that are people-oriented. They're focused on the who, feelings. They're interpersonal. They're feeling-based. They're emotional. They're communicative. And so again, they're very people-oriented. And then the green is the process people. They're how-oriented. How are we going to do this? They're sequential, they're organized, they're controlled, they're detailed, they're very planning-oriented. And so I think if you purchase this tool, it would cost you about $150, but one of the things that you can do is just sit back and say, okay, what do I believe is my most dominant color? And then, second of all, what is my second most dominant color? And then, what is my third dominant color? And what you're able to do is understand yourself, but this also helps you to begin to understand others. And what you want to realize is you can't always communicate if you're a blue. You can't always communicate in analytical and logical ways to everyone. If you have to figure out who, if you've got red people, you've got to focus on stories. You've got to focus on people. If you've got yellow people, then you've got to put in some charts that help people to get the big picture. And if you're focused on green people, then you want to help them know how to roll up their sleeves and help them to understand what steps that they need to take. So another tool that you can take advantage of is this 360-degree input tool. And what it enables you to do is to get input from others, from friends, from bosses, from peers, from subordinates, and it allows you to get their assessment of your strengths, their assessment of even some of your weaknesses. And this tool, I've used it for a number of years. You can access it, and each year you can get a 15-day free trial. And the web address there is reachcc.com. Now there's also another tool, and again I will give you a PDF of this file if you're part of this webinar, or if you get in touch with me. And this exercise actually comes from Richard Boll's book, What Color is Your Parachute? And in it, he provides a diagram, and what you're invited to do is to come into a party. And what he helps you to do is to identify the different groups of people, and each group of people is in one of the 6 different corners of the room. What you do is you go to the people that you're most comfortable with, and then what you end up with as you go through this exercise is a code, and you're able to take this code and go to a website, and I've identified that down below, where you can take that code, plug it in, and it will give you career suggestions based on the code. Now, let's go ahead and switch gears and talk about the consulting landscape, so that you more broadly understand the opportunities that are out there, and so that you can make a good decision. Now, as you go through this content, I would encourage you to mark down those areas that you believe best align with your noble passions, with your natural talents and your strengths. And remember this, that finding your ideal niche is a discovery and an iterative process. It's not always a linear process. So Let's talk about what the four broad categories are of consulting. So you have business consulting. Now when you and I think about consulting, that's typically what we think about. We think about business consultants. And just like it sounds, it's consulting services and products that are provided to businesses. Now this can include technical consulting, it can involve operations consulting, strategy consulting, and we'll get more into business consulting and what the different areas are in just a few moments. Then there are consumer-based consultants, and this is actually a growing market. And so instead of focusing on a business, you work directly with consumers and you provide them services and products. And then there's public and non-profit sector consultants. And then there's this category that I'm calling purpose-based consulting. Now purpose-based consulting really isn't a fourth category. In fact, it can overlay itself on each one of these other three categories that I mentioned. But what it is it's consulting services and products that are really focused on solving important issues. In our world, we have so many issues. And if we can get people to really take their talents and focus on those issues and help to resolve those issues, then if you're able to focus on a purpose-based consulting business, then you're able to not only make a living, but you're able to do something for society that has real meaning in the long term as well. So let's focus now on business consulting, since that's the biggest piece of the pie at this point, and that's where most of the dollars are. So this information actually comes from Pluckett's Consulting Industry Almanac 2014. And so what they stated is, in the United States, consulting of all types, including management, scientific, and technical, generated $180 billion during the year of 2013. And that was up from $162.8 billion the previous year. So this is a big industry. Now, if you look at it, the U.S. management, scientific, and technical consulting, all of that combined, that constituted $162.8 billion, and this is based on 2012 data, and all of this, the source of all of this information is the census reports. So if you take this broad category and break it down, you have management consulting. And the management consulting company's revenue was $131.7 billion. And then the subcategories underneath that: strategic management consulting, $36.5 billion. Financial management consulting, $7.8 billion. Marketing management consulting, $15.1 billion. HR management consulting, $13.7 billion. Ops and supply chain management, $8 billion. IT, design, development, and consulting, $9 billion. From my experiences, it seems like that would be a lot bigger, so I'm a little bit surprised by that. And then you've got U.S. environmental consulting, almost $11 billion, and U.S. accounting industry, $131.4 billion. Now, if you think about it, in business, there are different areas where you can consult. And what's helpful for us is to look at a generic structure, process structure of an organization. And so in most organizations, what do you have? You have suppliers and you have customers that are defining requirements. And so in a typical organization, you have a marketing and sales arm, and then you have your design and development, product design, product development, even operations development. Then you have your operations. Then you have your product or service delivery, and then after sales support. So this is what's called the core process. The core process involves those activities, those functions that provide direct value ultimately to the customer. And then typically within organizations, you have your support processes. So you have human resources, and they support the core processes. The same thing with finance and accounting, technology and purchasing. So if you think about it, from a business consulting perspective, there are really three major potential focus areas. So you can focus on core functions. So you can help from a marketing or sales or product development perspective, from a project and product management perspective, from operations and process improvement perspective, from a customer relations perspective. And typically it's not enough just to understand these generic functions or processes. You have to not only understand these core processes inside and out, you also have to, or one of them or more, you also have to have industry expertise as well. Now with the support functions apply across the board to all different types of industries, and they include the categories that you see listed. You can sometimes go ahead and just focus on becoming a real expert in one of these different support functions, and then you can help a wide range of different organizations. But I must throw out a caveat. It seems like even within these core functions, support functions that apply to organizations across the board, it seems like more and more organizations, when they're looking for consultants, they just don't want human resource expertise, but they want human resource expertise as it relates to the semiconductor industry, for example, because the HR issues, they're unique depending on the industry. So that sometimes can be important, even with support functions. And then you have your, what I'm calling, opportunity and improvement type of consulting. And these involve areas that oftentimes organizations don't have people that they've hired to manage. And finding the skill set, the thought leadership to be able to help the organization, sometimes that can be a real challenge. And some of these opportunity or improvement skill sets or focuses include strategy, organizational development and improvement, mergers and acquisitions, and new business development. Now, let's look at business consulting with that in mind from these three different perspectives. So you have industry-based consulting, and so understanding an industry thoroughly is generally an imperative. And if you think about why is that the case, it's because companies need to understand and they need to factor into their strategies relevant industry trends, competitive dynamics, regulations that apply to a given industry, products and innovations and technologies that relate to a given industry. And then there's support function consulting, which we discussed. And these are, again, common functions that exist across industries. And then there's the unique capacity consulting, and these are unique capacities needed in a large number of businesses, and they include things like data and analytics, digital, strategy, and implementation. Okay, it's also helpful for us to really understand what the top business strategies, the business challenges are today. And so this slide is actually a culmination of a variety of different surveys that have been conducted with CEOs and top executives in trying to really understand what the top challenges are in businesses today. The first one is getting and retaining customers. The second is governance. So there's more politics than ever before, and if you have the right kind of governance in place, that can address a lot of the political issues that you and I have probably been frustrated with during our career. Innovation. Operations excellence is always a challenge in organizations. Regulations, risks in this dynamic world, strategy in today's dynamic world. It's not enough to create a 5-year or 10-year strategic plan anymore. Sustainability, talent, technology, the global economy, organizational purpose and trust. So all of these are the top challenges in business today. So we talked about industries and how it might be important for you to think about really focusing not only in on an activity, on a function, but also on one or more industries. Now it's interesting. I've got a good friend, and he owns a business where he provides strategy development and implementation software to help organizations, and his tool is agnostic. It's industry agnostic. But what he's finding is, although his tool applies to any business or organization, he's finding that clients are most interested in his product when they have found that other clients within their industry have used the tool and have been successful with the tool. So he's finding that that's where the tide is moving. So this might be an important question. What industry or industries should you focus on? Now what I'll do is I won't go through all of the industries that are out there. I won't spend much time doing that, but this information will be available to you again in the PDF format, so you can kind of go through it and say, okay, let me mark down this industry and this industry and go through that exercise very quickly. So now before I jump in and provide you a list of the various industries, I found it interesting. I went to the consulting firms, the biggest consulting firms, and I said, okay, what are you focused on from an industry perspective? And if you look at this, you've got airlines, aerospace, automotive, banking, so forth and so on. What they have focused on are the big industries where there's lots of money and thus profits for them. And so that's probably been the incentive for them to focus on these particular industries. Okay, so what I've done here is I've identified for you the major sectors that constitute our economy. And then, as you can imagine, each one of these sectors break down into industries. So I won't go through all of these, but what I want to do is provide an overview so that you can quickly go through the content in a PDF format that I'll send to you if you ask for it, or if you're part of this webinar, and you can circle those industries that you're potentially most interested in. Okay, so you have the financial sector, huge sector, consumer goods, technology, conglomerates, basic materials, services, healthcare, industrial goods, and utilities. Okay, now if you look at it, financial sector, you can see a list of industries within the financial sector. Consumer goods sector, same thing there. Technology sector, basic materials sector, services sector, page 2 of that, healthcare sector, industrial goods sector, utility. Okay, let's just step back and look at what we've done today, and let's also focus on what we're going to do tomorrow in our training, and then we'll talk about, again, we'll remind you about what we're going to do next week as we talk about marketing for consultants. So today we've discussed reasons to be a consultant. I've shared with you top pains and interests of independent consultants. We discussed how to find your ideal consulting sweet spot. And what we said is there's 3 different areas that you need to focus on. Number 1, your noble passions. Number 2, your unique talents, your natural talents and your strengths. And then number 3, marketing opportunities. Now we have not focused on marketing opportunities, and so when we meet tomorrow, what we're going to discuss is simple but powerful ways that you can conduct market research to help you refine your niche. So I would encourage you to join us so that you can get some useful information to help you in that regard. Now, just as a reminder, this next week we're going to focus on how to significantly increase your marketing results as a consultant. We'll review new marketing rules for optimizing your ability to acquire new clients and revenue. And then we'll also share deep insights, powerful insights on how you can create successful consulting marketing campaigns. So I appreciate you being here with us today, and I'm excited that you're interested in this topic, and I hope that you will go through the material, and I look forward to meeting with you tomorrow and next week. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you. Take care.